So step 1, when you're given 2 points, you need to find your slope. To find the slope for these 2 points, we would do -7 minus a -5 over 8 minus 0. -7 minus a -5. Someone help me with that. -7 plus 5. -2. And 8 minus 0 is 8. Now, I have a feeling that this fraction simplifies. So if you don't know what it is off the top of your head, plug it into your calculator. -2, ABC 8. Caden says it's -1/4. Do you guys agree? -1/4. So our slope is -1/4. Now, it might seem silly at this point to write out this information like this, but when we turn to the back, it's going to be a little bit more involved, and you're going to want to try to stay as organized as possible and make sure you label, this is my slope, this is my whatever. Step 2 is find the y-intercept. And remember that any point that is 0, something, that something is the y-intercept. So if we look at our points, one of our points is 0, -5. So our y-intercept is -5. All right. Step 3, write the equation. Y equals -1/4 x minus 5. Please make sure that your x is either even with your fraction bar or slightly above. You don't want it to look like your x is on the bottom of the fraction, because that would make it not a linear equation. So make sure your x is right by your fraction bar or slightly above your fraction bar. Okay, let's turn to the back and let's learn about point-slope form. Review point-slope form. I know that you talked about this last year. Point-slope form is called point-slope form because it uses a point and the slope. When you know the slope m and a point x1, y1, we use the point-slope formula. Just like y equals mx plus b, there's a few places that we put the numbers into. y1 is the y value from the point. M is the slope. And x1 is the x value of the point. So there's 3 places that we're going to put numbers in. So if you don't have a highlighter, if you could at least put arrows underneath those 3 things to show yourself when you're looking back at your notes, these are the 3 places that I have to put something into. Example 2. Write an equation in point-slope form of the line that passes through the point -8, 3 and has a slope of 1/4. So take this point, -8, 3, and label it x1, y1. The slope is 1/4. That would be your m. Step 1, no matter which form you're using, step 1 is always identify your slope. Sometimes they'll give you the slope, sometimes you'll have to find the slope. What is our slope in this problem? All together now? What is the slope in this problem? I'm talking too fast. M equals 1/4. Next it says plug the slope and a point into the formula. So this is our slope and we have our point right up here. All right, let's do this step by step together. Y minus. Next the formula says y1. What number is our y1? 3. Equals m. What is our m? 1/4. Parentheses, x minus x1. What is our x1? -8. Notice we wrote minus a negative. One of the biggest mistakes in point-slope form is thinking that the subtraction symbol from the formula can take the place of the negative. It can't. If there's a negative there, you have to do minus a negative. Now, what is minus a negative? Changes into a positive. So right below that, rewrite this, simplify, that's step 3, changing minus a negative to a positive. Okay, how do you feel about point-slope form so far? Easy peasy? All right, let's try example 3. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. So that's what we want our answer to look like of the line going through these 2 points. What did they not give us? They didn't give us the slope. So step 1, identify the slope. We have to find the slope from these 2 points. So m equals -2 minus 2 over 3 minus 1. -2 minus 2, -4, 3 minus 1, 2. And -4 divided by 2. So over here, I'm going to write nice and clear, m equals -2. Next, we need to plug the slope and a point into the formula. It does not matter which point you choose. You can choose 1, 2, or you can choose 3, -2. Which one looks like it might be easier to work with? 1 and 2, because it's not negative. So I'm going to write 1, 2, and label it x1, y1. Now I have my 3 numbers that I need to plug into that formula. So let's plug it in. Y minus, which number? 2 equals our slope, -2, parentheses, x minus our x value, 1. Make sure it just says x minus 1. Now, we want our answer to look like what I just highlighted, y equals mx plus b. So, we need to simplify, and the first part of simplifying is distributing the slope. Into these parentheses, we can take this -2 and we can distribute. So, y minus 2 equals -2 times x is -2x. -2 times -1 is +2. Now, notice the right side right now. -2x plus 2. That looks good. That looks like what we want it to look like. But the left side should just be y equals. So to get rid of this -2, we add 2 to both sides. That's what this step solve for y means. So we distributed the slope, and now we're getting y by itself. Y equals -2x plus 4. Okay, we're going to go back through the steps one more time, and then you're going to try example 4 on your own. First, you use the slope formula and get your slope. Next, you pick one of your points, and if I were you, I would pick the point that has positive numbers whenever possible. Step 2, you plug the slope and your point into that formula. Step 3, distribute your slope, get y by itself. All right, take a moment, try example 4 by yourself. It's following the same steps. Step 1, identify your slope. M equals 6 minus -6, 4 minus -2. That would be, so our slope is 2. Which point should we pick? 4 and 6, because they're both positive. So 4 is our x1 and 6 is our y1. So now we need to plug all of that in. Y minus 6 equals 2 times x minus 4. Now, it is very easy to make this mistake. It's very easy just to try to use these numbers in order, 4 and then 6 and then 2. Make sure you're putting your m, your slope, in this spot, and your x with the x, and your y value with the y value. Okay, distribute your slope. That would give us y minus 6 equals 2x minus 8. Then add 6. Make sure you don't add that 6 until after you have distributed. Y equals 2x minus 2. Now, did anybody happen to use the other point? I want you to see what happens. So you don't have to write this down. I just want you to kind of watch along. If I had chosen the other point, I would write y minus negative 6 equals 2 times x minus a negative 2. So that'd be plus 6 and plus 2. I would distribute. And then what would I do next? Subtract 6. Notice it doesn't look the same right now, but when we subtract 6 from both sides, notice we end up with the same answer no matter which point we choose. So as long as you're doing the math correctly, it does not matter which point you pick. Pick one of the points, use your slope, plug it into that formula correctly, distribute your slope, get y by itself. I'm trying to say those steps over as many times as I can so it gets ingrained in your brain. Plug in your slope and your point, distribute your slope, get y by itself. On your assignment, we did not go over an example like number 4, but take a look at what it's asking you. It's asking you to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, that is y equals mx plus b. So you need m, you need your slope. You can either use these 2 points and do the slope formula, or because you have a picture here, you can count rise over run to figure out what your slope is. So you have 2 options for finding your slope. Then you could either do point slope form and do all the work, or take a look at your points. Does it show you where the graph crosses the y-axis? Where does it cross the y-axis? Go ahead and shout it out there. That's a pretty weak shout right there. At 3. So, because it crosses the y-axis right here, your y-intercept is 3. So all you have to do is find your slope, your y-intercept is 3, write the equation in slope-intercept form.